Hello and welcome to Kaiju Review.
Today we'll be taking a look at Q, the Winged Serpent.
Protomet, that's the flying serpent. It's the movie Q's loosely based on.
Oh.
It's not even a giant monster movie. Ah, that's the one.
In New York, a window washer is decapitated by something, and Detective Shepard and Sergeant Powell are called in to investigate the mysterious death. At a diner, a group of thugs are plotting a heist, though one of them, the wheelman Jimmy Quinn, wants a bigger cut than he's being offered. The next day at a hotel, a cleaning lady finds a skinned corpse on a bed, and it's determined the victim was killed as part of a cult ritual. Elsewhere on a roof, a sunbather is snatched up by a flying creature, dripping blood down onto the streets below.
I'm never going to New York. You find dead bodies, blood falls from the sky. It doesn't seem very fun.
Jimmy enters a bar, offers to take a job as a musician, a job he learned about by his girlfriend Joan. But he's not very good at it, and Shepard enters the bar to get a drink. As Jimmy leaves, Shepard compliments his playing, but Jimmy dismisses it.
Dude, just take the compliment. Jimmy decides to take the heist job, but ends up being forced into helping with the robbery itself. Jimmy exits alone with the diamonds and walks off. He's hit by a cab, losing the case with the diamonds in the process, causing him to panic and flee, finding a payphone and calling his lawyer.
Wait, he's got a lawyer?
The kind of stuff he seems to be a part of, why wouldn't he have a lawyer?
You got a point.
He makes his way to his lawyer's office in the Chrysler building, but his lawyer is out. He heads up towards the top of the building, pursued by the security guard, but he manages to lose the guy. Climbing further up, Jimmy finds a nest with a large egg as well as a dead body. He tries to loot the corpse before chickening out and leaves the building.
A construction worker loses his lunch for the third time that month. He soon dies while his coworkers keep eating his lunch. Shepard visits a museum while investigating the ritual murder. He learns that the Aztecs sacrificed humans to their god Quetzalcoatl.
Quesadilla? That's a weird name for a monster.
No, it's Quetzalcoatl.
Can we just call it Q for short?
Shepard isn't quite convinced that the victim offered himself as a sacrifice, but it's as good a lead as any, and he takes some books on the subject home with him.
The next day, Jimmy visits Joan at her apartment. He asks for a drink, and she reminds him that she wants him to quit drinking and warns that if he hits her again, she'll break a lamp over his head.
Wait, again? He's done that before? Lady, you need to get out of that relationship fast.
Tells her about the robbery and ends up telling her about the nest he found. When he thinks she doesn't believe him, he gets upset, but then she tries to comfort him.
Elsewhere, another sacrificial ritual is performed. Powell tells Shepard about the new victim whose heart was removed from his body. After telling their superiors, the police decide to search for anyone related to Aztec research and with medical skills. After another victim of Q, Shepard speaks with the museum curator again, who agrees with Shepard that there is some potentially ancient creature out there.
Jimmy is awakened by his cohorts in the robbery knocking on the apartment door. He tries to tell them what happened to the diamonds, but they don't believe him and forces him to flee out the window. After a short chase, the goons catch him and he agrees to take them to where he hid the gems. Unbeknownst to them, however, he instead takes them up to the nest he found earlier. Leading them higher into the nest, Jimmy lets them get eaten by Q.
Knew that was going to happen. At a rooftop pool, Q claims yet another victim. Returning to his girlfriend's apartment, Jimmy is arrested for the robbery. At the precinct, Powell questions Jimmy. Powell knows Jimmy well enough to know that he couldn't have been the mastermind, but Jimmy wants to see his lawyer first. He agrees to provide a statement, but before he can get it, Powell and Shepard are called aside.
As Jimmy listens in, their boss tells them about the pool victim being snatched up by Q. Shepard shows them his research into the creature. When Paul questions if they're off the ritual murder case, Shepard reveals that the two cases are one and the same. After Shepard leaves, Paul has Jimmy taken to a holding cell.
Jimmy contemplates revealing what he knows to the police, though Joan tells him he should. When he reveals what happened to the goons, Joan leaves after telling him to tell the cops. Jimmy decides to tell the police about the nest, but he'll only reveal the location on the condition that he's pardoned for his crimes, and paid a bunch of money, among other things.
Greedy, greedy, greedy.
Shepard takes Jimmy to a diner to get some coffee, and Jimmy offers to pay. The two get to talking, and Jimmy confesses to leading the two goons to their death. Jimmy suggests they drop a tent on the nest to keep it in the nest, revealing the existence of the egg. Jimmy almost tells Shepard where the nest is, but then Paul comes in and Jimmy clams up. After the lawyer receives his cash, the commissioner dismisses Shepard's report on Q, telling him to treat the monster and the ritual killings as separate cases.
The next day, the police department storm the Chrysler building to deal with Q. Shepard gives Jimmy a gun for defense, but he doesn't want it. Climbing up into the nest, Shepard fires on the egg as it hatches, killing the baby Q. After the kill is confirmed, Jimmy learns that he's not getting the money because Q got away, and Jimmy complains that they didn't cover the dome like he suggested, but Shepard at least pays him back for the coffee.
That was nice of him.
The suspect in the ritual killings is spotted by an undercover officer, and he and Powell follow the suspect in his next sacrifice. Just as the sacrifice is about to start, the police raid the building, killing the sacrifice. Unfortunately, the cult leader managed to escape. Q swoops down and snatches Powell and drops him into the street, finally giving us a good look of the flying creature.
At Joan's apartment that night, Jimmy lashes out over not being paid for his information. Joan reveals that Jimmy's gonna be charged with murder for the two goons that got eaten, and then dumps him and kicks him out.
Finally, she's starting to use her head.
The next morning, the police stake out the dome of the Chrysler building, waiting for Q to return. As she returns, the cops unload their weapons on the flying beast. Though some officers are tossed from the building, Q is gravely wounded and crashes into another building before collapsing into the street, dead.
In his hotel room, Jimmy is attacked by the cult leader, who claims that Quetzalcoatl will rise again. Before the cult leader can do anything to Jimmy, Shepard swoops in and saves him. Shepard tells Jimmy his ex is waiting for him, but Jimmy decides it's time to clean up his life.
Unbeknownst to everyone, there was a second egg, and it hatched.
That was Q, a really good movie.
A bit more violent than other giant monster movies, though.
True, but sometimes that works for a movie.
Yeah, the more grotesque elements do add a bit to the film's plot.
Admittedly, some of the effects are silly, but still enjoyable.
And the ending was pretty good.
The whole movie was good.
Yeah, you're right.
Once again, it's time to bring an episode of Kaiju Review to the end.
Already?
I'm Tank.
I'm Protomet.
Bye.